So with that, I would love to introduce Jared. Jared Thatcher is the Continuous Process Improvement Program Manager at the Port of Seattle with nearly 2 decades of experience using lean in a wide variety of industries, including manufacturing, automotive, construction, retail, aviation, IT, and in government. And over that time, the improvement events he's facilitated from going to Gemba has produced over $100 million in cost savings and revenue generation. And Jared has a passion for lean and hosts the annual virtual lean summit. So definitely a good conference to check out there as well. So Jared, thank you so much for being here with us today, and take it away.
Thank you, Teresa. I'm really excited to be here. Molly, I want to thank you for also helping out with the ASL. Appreciate it. Thank you. All right. Well, welcome. We are going to learn hopefully some really fantastic new things together. And so, as mentioned, my name is Jared Thatcher. I've been with the Port of Seattle for about 4 years now, and want to give a shout out to them. Really appreciate working at the port and the excitement that all of the people at the port have for continuous improvement. Through COVID, we have seen a lot of people really come together and make some important improvements, and continuing that effort now that we are more back to normal than we were before. All right, so Gemba Walks for results and motivation. Well, today we're going to look at a couple of things. What is a Gemba Walk and why is that important? We'll then look at how do we drive performance with doing Gemba Walks. And finally, we'll look at how you can help to motivate your people through Gemba Walks. So what is Gemba? Well, Gemba is actually a Japanese word. And you might think I have this misspelled, but actually it is two parts here that come together. Think of Latin, different, suffix and prefix, words that are sounds that come together. And so it's Genba. But in the Hepburn method of writing down Japanese, you'll typically see it Gemba with an M because the N follows a B, or precedes a B rather. So what's interesting is this really means the actual place. Oftentimes you'll hear people, on TV talking about that they are, news reporters, that they are at the Gemba, which means they are at the actual place where kind of like the scene of the incident. They're reporting from the scene, from the Gemba. So that's what it means. But there's something that's kind of interesting here. And that is, if you look at the first symbol here, there's two parts to that. The first part is O, or king. So the king has this kind of this virtuous feeling behind it. And then the second part, or the second symbol here, is mi, or miru, to see. And so what the king sees is kind of the actual thing, what's actually happening. But if we look at that that first part right there, the gen by itself, it actually forms a verb, and that verb is arawareru, which is to appear or to show up. And so really that's what we're doing. We're appearing, we're showing up, we're going to the place where the action, is happening, where the work is taking place. And that's what Gemba is. And I find it important to learn, not all of the Japanese words that we hear in lean, but I think it is important to know a few of them. Kaizen, which is continuous improvement, Gemba, by far, probably the two most important words that you should know. And it helps you to really take a moment, think about why are you saying that? Why are you using a different word? So Gemba, whether it's actually out in the field, we have some WSDOT folks here putting up some guardrail, or whether it's in the office. Gemba is any place where the action is taking place, where the work is happening. And we talk about Gemba Walks. This is a great tool that we have within Lean, and it's something that often is referred to as go and see walks. When you get rid of the Gemba, it's go and see. However, a good friend of mine, Ritsuo Shingo, his father, Shige Shingo, actually helped create the Toyota method. And unfortunately, Ritsuo passed away here earlier this year in April. I was really disappointed. I was actually going to have dinner with him in Nagoya, but he had passed away about 2 weeks before I got there. But he said, when I was talking to him once, that quite often in English we say go and see. No way, go and observe. To him, seeing was a passive verb. Everybody sees. very few people actually take the time to observe, to really understand what's going on. The same way that a lot of people, we hear what you're saying, but we really don't listen to what you're saying. So Gemba is really important because we want to understand what is going on. We want to get to the root cause of things. And so that's why it's important that we do this. Now, you may have heard about the Hawthorne effect. And if not, that's okay. Between 1924 and 1927, there was a number of experiments that were done to try to improve productivity at the Hawthorne Western Electric Plant in Cicero, Italy, or not Italy, rather, in Illinois. And what they did is they came in and they said, hey, it's kind of dark in here. Let's add some lights and see if that helps with production. And sure enough, production went up as a result. And they thought, hey, I think we're onto something. Well, if a little bit of light's good, maybe a lot of light is a lot better, right? So they decided to add some more light. And what do you expect happened? Yep, that's right. Production went up again. I'm like, hey, we are onto something. This is great. But being, scientifically minded, the researchers decided, well, we need to test this out. We need to make sure that really is the case. And so, you want to test out your theory. So what did they do? They removed the lights, went back. And what do you think happened? They expected that it would go down. But to their surprise, production went up yet again. And they were concerned. They were like, okay, what are we missing? What's going on? And what they came to realize is that when you are focused and you are under observation, people tend to perform better. And so there is a great benefit that happens when you go to Gemba, because people are going to notice that you're there, and they are going to participate more often than not. Had the opportunity back at the end of August to go to a Toyota plant in Columbus, Edinburgh, Indiana, just outside of Indianapolis. And they make forklifts there. And it was really cool because going on this Gemba walk, I got to see, and all these things that I've read about in books, I got to experience the same things that I saw when I went to a Toyota plant in Japan, and that is that they really do practice what they preach. So you probably heard the famous story of Taichi Ono. He once went ahead and drew a chalk line in a circle in the middle of the plant, and he told one of his supervisors, go stand there. And dutifully, he did. He went and stood there and proceeded to actually observe, to see what was going on, right? And he noticed how people were working, what they were doing and how they were working. And that helped him to create, some new ideas and to make some improvements, and made it easier for, the workers. And so it took him a while, but he observed, and he, at the end of the day, he went home. Well, he told his wife about this. So this is kind of the Paul Harvey, the rest of the story. And what he said was that he went home, talked to his wife. His wife was very upset that, he was forced to stand in this circle all day long, that it was just, inappropriate. So she went back and she actually complained to the company president. And Mr. Toyota went to Taichi Ono and said, hey, what's going on? And Taichi Ono, he apologized for making him stand out there all day. What had actually happened is he got busy with other work, and he didn't go back to relieve him and tell him to come back, off the line. He was impressed that he did stay there all day, like he told him to, but it was really just kind of an oversight. So that is the rest of the story. A friend of mine, Hide Oba, he said that Gemba is a mirror to management. If you really want to understand how management is and what they feel and think about the workers, about lean thinking, you really have to, look and see at the Gemba. Is management there, right? When I went to Japan, I had the opportunity to meet with the CEO of Avex Inc. This is Take Norikato. And he said something that was really interesting that I wrote down and captured and want to share with you. And he said that in his company, management has certain time allocation, and it's the same thing for his company as it is for Toyota. And that is that you spend part of your time as a manager developing your people. You spend part of that in Kaizen or continuous improvement, and you spend the rest of the time in Gemba. And so for him, the breakdown was that he wanted to see his people spending about 20% of their time developing their people. I think all too often, in our organizations, we fail to do really well in succession planning and helping people to, to promote and to move up. So training them, making sure that they're getting the things that they need, making sure that you're resolving issues and conflict and helping your people to succeed is worth spending 20% of your time on doing that. Kaizen is then spent 30% of your time on looking for continuous improvement, working with your team, helping them to improve and to get better as well as yourself. Which means the balance of your time, 50% of your time should be spent at Gemba. You might be wondering, it's a lot of time to be spending, out there in the field with the people. What does that mean? Well, Gemba really is the place where you get your work done. In other words, it's any place where value creating work is happening. So for a manager, this could be actually on the phone with customers. You're taking a customer order, you're finding out, basically a kind of a voice of the customer. That's Gemba. It could be actually in a meeting discussing the issues that are going to help your team, or preparing for strategic, initiatives that you're doing. That's also Gemba. It's where the work is taking place. But also it is where your direct reports are working. You have to go out and see them. I had, when I was working at Alaska Airlines, one of the VPs actually took time at least once a month to go out and walk down, on the floor, go to everybody's cubicle, talk to them, spend a couple minutes with them, find out what they were working on, seeing if there was anything they could do to help. And normally I would just say, oh, I'm just doing this, I don't need any help. But one time I was really frustrated. I was trying to get some initiative through and we were getting, kickback from another department. And so I mentioned this to him and I said, it would be great. I can't do anything else until they, provide us the information that we need. And he said, no problem. I'll take care of it. And within about an hour, I had an email that said, hey, we're going to take care of this for you. That's part of the power that happens when you're actually out at Gemba, finding out what the people need. But if you sit in your office, the world's going to be passing you by. You're going to miss things. And that's not where we want to be. In fact, if you want to be a superhero, you need to get up out of your chair. You need to, really stretch and move and get out there and get to the place where the work is happening. Because when you do that, you're going to start to observe things. You're going to start to notice things. I'll give you a second. Do you see anything wrong with this picture? Well, if you notice that the guy on the right is not wearing safety glasses, you are correct. Not good. If you notice the guy on the far left, he doesn't have any side filters for his glasses, and probably those are actually prescription glasses and not actually safety glasses, something that shouldn't be worn out there. If you look closer, you'll also notice that nobody is wearing hearing protection. And even worse, the gentleman on the far right-hand side here, if you look closely at his glove, you'll notice that his thumb is exposed, which means it's time to get a new glove because he could actually get injured by not wearing gloves properly. So you're going to miss all these things if you don't go out into the plant. It's super important that you do that. Now, a couple of years ago, I spoke here at Results Washington, and I talked about a number of tools that you can use that come from the agile world, applying them to lean. One of the things that I pointed out is that within PDCA, which is the typical cycle that we use for improvement, it's typically drawn like this. I tend to draw it like this. We put more of our time in planning because if you do that, you're going to be far more successful in your improvements. But you'll notice in the center, I have something that says GTS, which is grasp situation. You get that from a number of different things, from voice of the customer, but also from going to Gemba. You have to understand along the way what's going on. And if you fail to go out and see what's happening, you're going to fail to, be able to really make the improvements that need to happen. I remember I was at Alaska Airlines once. I was working with the team and we mapped out the process. And I said, that's fantastic. But I said, I really want to see you in action. Do you mind if I come and sit at your desk and watch you, go through this process? And what I noticed is some of the things they told me were happening, really, there was other things that were happening. And as a result, I noticed that they were actually downloading, documents from online. And then they were printing those out and then they were manually typing those in. What they didn't realize, and nobody had told them, it wasn't their fault, that you can actually take those documents and automatically upload them into the database. So what was taking them somewhere between 6 to 12 hours a day to enter in all these records, we actually implemented it so that it was an automatic process where it just went right into the database. And this saved them a ton of time, especially reconciling the books at the end of the month, especially when they had fat finger errors. And this saved them not only a lot of time, but it allowed them to do what they enjoyed doing, which was talking to the customer. And the result was they were able to recoup over $1 million in additional revenue because they could talk to the customers and find out why a chargeback had happened. And so that's what happens if I had missed that step of going out to Gemba and grasping the situation, we would have missed that opportunity. So really, there's a lot of benefits that happen from doing a Gemba walk, from leadership development to finding opportunity, taking action to fix things, developing trust, and creating one-on-one coaching opportunities with managers and their people. So this brings us to our first main topic here, which is getting results from Gemba. So how do we go ahead and do that? Well, you really must have a goal. So came up with this fun little acronym to help you remember. First is G, go. You have to build trust. You have to go out. And if you're not out there with the workers, if you're not seeing what they're doing, if you're not involved with them, you're going to miss things. Second thing is you have to observe. Not see, you have to observe. And then you have to act on what you're seeing or what you're observing. And the final piece, and again, bear with me, I had to make this fit the acronym. You have to linger, or in other words, you have to follow up. You have to see if the improvements that you've made when you acted, did it actually work? So here's an example. Port Construction Services at the Port of Seattle is a group, and they're kind of like our internal construction department. So they do a lot of the work for us, and it's fantastic, the job that they do. Very skilled workers. We love having them. The problem was they did not feel really part of the port. Here they're in a kind of their job trailer. And as I was talking to them, we realized that there was kind of this disconnect between their needs and what they felt like management, didn't really care about them. And so I mentioned this to my boss, and you can see him. He's the tall gentleman standing there in the middle. And so Dave Soike, he just retired from the port after, I think, 43 years. But he came down when he heard that. He came down, wanted to go out, actually see. We went on some Gemba walks. Not only did he come, but he also brought some of the ELT, or the executive team leaders with him. So here's another picture on the left in the blue. That is our head of HR, Katie Gerard. And so she came down to see and visit with them as well. And we documented a bunch of the problems and the frustrations that they had. Well, I was observing what was going on. So after we finished and we said our goodbyes, everybody sat down and they started filling out these forms, paper forms. Some of them were doing it on their phone. And I asked them, well, what are you doing? Because you don't look happy filling out a paper form here in the year 2022. And they said, no, we don't like this. It's really frustrating, especially the PDF version, because we have to delete what we had done from the day before, refill it out, save it, and then send it in. And I tracked down the process and understood what was going on. And they would send it into the office. The admin would then print out multiple copies, make copies of everything, give it to different people to approve, put it on file, take some herself to enter in the data of who was working and on what projects they were working on. And it was a very manual process. So we decided to act and said, we have a system that we can automate forms and we can make this a lot simpler. So we went in, used Viochi, and we created a automatic form that they could fill in on their smartphones or the tablets. Saved a ton of time. But remember, you have to linger, make sure that it's working. And so that's the step we're at now, is making sure that it's working, it's giving them the results, and it's saving a ton of, not just paper, but it's saving a ton of time, because we don't, again, have those errors of, reading somebody's handwriting or putting in the wrong number. Whatever they enter in gets put in directly into the system, into the database. When we go out, we have to be careful that we're just not, seeing what we want to see, right? Here's somebody smiling, but if we stay around a little bit longer and observe, we might notice that they start to, rub their neck. You might not think anything of it, but if you're really observing, you might notice a couple of things, that their neck is sore, probably because they're looking ergonomically, not in the way you should. They're looking down at their computer screen instead of up. So little things like this, if we just observe, we can make improvements and help make things better for our colleagues. I had the opportunity to work at the airport, and we go out sometimes, and there's something known as FOD. FOD is foreign object debris. Basically, it's garbage. It's anything that shouldn't be on the runway, on the ramp. And we want to get rid of that. And so here's just a couple of examples. I had a bunch of the airlines come in with a bunch of the below wing companies, and we talked about some of the issues that we were having out on the runway and on the ramp rather, and wanted it to be a better situation. So we involved them, because a damage from something being sucked into the engine can cause hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars of damage. Not only that, but it could also potentially be fatal if it happened, and things like that have happened in the past. Luckily, not here, but we want to be safe. And so we went ahead and we did an initiative. And here's a success story that I put together about this effort. Hope you enjoy the video.
All right, FOD is any item, debris, or nut or bolt that could create some kind of a hazard to either personnel on the ramp, to vehicles, and most importantly, to aircraft. So it's very important that we manage FOD so that we can reduce it to a minimum and reduce the possibility of any piece of FOD being ingested into an engine of an aircraft. So one of the important parts of this project was that we didn't really have a way to quantify what is a lot of FOD and what isn't. So it was very helpful to have the lean team develop a technique to quantify that. So we were able to look at a defined area at each gate that was 1,000 square feet, that we were able to say, here's what the FOD is today, so the current state, and define that well. So we had a starting point that we could determine how much of a reduction we've had, so we were able to measure our success. And in fact, we were successful in reducing FOD by 72.8%. And I think a big key to the success that we had in some of the reduction efforts was going out and actually seeing it. We put a face on the FOD, if you will. It became real. It became tangible to folks to recognize that they did, in fact, have a problem.
Right. So hopefully you enjoyed that story there. Here's another one. Earlier this year, I was invited to come to a week-long Kaizen event with a manufacturer. In fact, the first manufacturer of gummy vitamins. So this was kind of cool. It's a little bit outside of my industry, but I wanted to see what it was that they did and how how they did it. What was interesting, when we went out and we did our walk, our Gemba walk, people were focused on the process, they were focused on the product, but they weren't focused on the people. And that was one of the things that I noticed, that here's people, they're bending over, picking up sacks of ingredients off of the pallet that's on the floor, having to lift that up above waist height, before working with it to measure it out and create the recipe and the ingredients. People were following what was going on, but they weren't noticing that people were tripping over certain things. There was an opportunity to improve a lot of things, but because their focus was really on the flow of everything and not on what was going around, they missed a lot. When I presented the ideas of let's go ahead and do some things, build a platform that we can put the forklift and can put the pallet at a height that just allows them to move it right off of the pallet right directly onto the cart. It made it a lot simpler and easier, no lifting. It was more sliding. And as they looked at the results, they realized that there had been a lot of injury complaints and workman's comp complaints in that area. And so again, don't miss things. You have to really observe what's going on. And one way to do that is there's a form. I think they've dropped this into the chat or something for you to be able to grab. But this is a simple go and see plan, but it's an opportunity to write down who's doing what, when they're doing it. You might want to take time and have people focus on different things. Hey, you're looking for inventory waste. You're looking for motion waste or transportation waste or waiting waste. You can assign different things so that people are focused on different opportunities, and you can change the timeframes. You can do whatever, but it really helps sometimes to have a plan so that you can look at not just the process and the product, but also the people. So I had an opportunity to work, and this is actually, I think, the first time this ever happened. We have a new product team. It's Alteryx. They have the ability to take different systems that normally don't talk to themselves in IT, and through Alteryx, be able to get them to communicate seamlessly together. So we got to actually plan out what is the intake process and how does this work. So that was actually kind of a cool thing. And one of the first people that came up said, "Hey, I really need help, because what I do is I log into my computer, I download a PDF form, I have to take what's on the PDF and convert it over into Excel, and then I have to email that to my boss so that he gets it. And that entire process takes somewhere every month between 1.5 hours to 3 hours. Is there a way to streamline this using Alteryx?" And so the team looked at it, and they got on a Teams call, and luckily they were going to reject it, because they said, well, it's too many problems trying to convert PDFs into Excel documents. But instead of just rejecting it, one of our lean specialists happened to be on the intake team and said, "Hey, let's do a virtual Gemba walk. Can you walk us through it?" And when she did, they realized there was actually another thing that was happening. The system that she was logging into, she wasn't aware of what that system was, but the team actually had access to that particular server. So when they saw what it was that where she was getting that information from, they're like, "Hey, you know what? We can actually help. So you don't really need to be involved here. Using Alteryx, we can go ahead and remove you out of the picture, and we can team up using Alteryx directly from the server and have him deliver the results that the manager is looking for." And the cool thing is, we get rid of a lot of these steps. It reduces your time. It automates the entire process. So now we have about 2 hours a week. So we've got one person, and this is what's really cool. What we found out as we were talking to them is it's not just one person. This is an admin, and we have about 150 admins at the port, which means we have 150 opportunities to automate this process and save about 2 hours each month, 12 months in the year. That's 3,600 hours that we're going to be able to save. We would have missed that opportunity because they were ready to reject it, but because they did a virtual Gemba walk, they were able to see that it was possible to actually do this. When we're out on the Gemba, we have to be able to see issues when they come up. And so there's this concept in Japan, ondan. It means lantern. And you've probably seen this, the ondan cord. You pull the ondan cord, and in this case, you can see that in workstation number 3, the light's gone on, and there's some sort of an issue that they need help with. So what we're able to do when we have the ondan cord is we can make improvements, and that's actually pretty cool, because in the office we have the same ability. This is cost tailored. They're a private company, but one of the things that they did is they said, "Hey, we don't need to invest a lot of money in lights and cords and different things like that. Let's just use Dixie cups. We'll go ahead and put these cups up there, get the different colors, very cheap." And depending on if you're needing help, if you're, heads down and you don't need, you shouldn't be disturbed, you can change the color of your cup, and everybody knows what that means. And they're able to see if you have capacity to help or not, or if you need help. So that's actually kind of a really cool thing that they came up with. So you can do something similar. The point is, with ondan, we want to make it visible. And we want to create a safe environment for people to be there to pull that cord, because there have been a lot of companies that have tried to implement ondan cords. And what they have found is management gets upset with the individual when they pull it to notify them of an issue. Because, hey, do you know how much it costs to stop the line? And they'll start up the line before they even listen to them about what the issue is. And what the people learn is, hey, I get yelled at for calling something out. I'm going to stop calling things out. Guys, red is actually a good thing. It helps us to see that there's an opportunity to improve. And I know we've been conditioned to, we don't want to see red. We want to make everything green or yellow. But sometimes green is really more watermelon. It's green on the outside, but it's red on the inside. So don't be afraid to see red. Don't be afraid to call things out when you need help. When you do need help, there's some tools. So when I was at Toyota, this is one of the things that they used and created it. Basically, what you want to do is you want to clarify the problem, and then you go and see what was it that you observed, and then what's your initial countermeasure? How are you going to mediate this issue to start with? And then you start to come up with what are some of the whys. As we're going, 5 whys. How do we get to the root cause? Why did this happen? And why did that happen? And you keep on asking why. And that's what you do right as soon as the ondon has been pulled. Then by the end of the day, you want to continue to ask those questions, get to the root cause, and assign an owner to it, and then what that countermeasure is going to be. And so by the end of the day, you have something, a plan in place. By the end of the week, you want to check and confirm that you're getting the results that you wanted, and that you have a plan for implementing this over the next 90 days to make sure that it sticks. We know that habits are hard to break or hard to change. And so when we do something about 90 days, it has a better tendency to stick. And so for the next 90 days, we want to track that. And I even added something down here on the bottom. So every week you can put a check and you can see, hey, is this working? If it isn't, at Toyota, what they'll do is they'll go back to the drawing board. They'll start the entire thing over. If at the end of 90 days, they haven't had the issue come back up and it seems that the mitigation, the countermeasure is working, then they'll take this off and they'll stop tracking it. So let's talk about using Gemba to motivate. There's a lot of things that we can do in that case. Ricio Shingo, again, he said something that I really liked. It's that you need to go with big eyes. You need to go with big ears and not with a big mouth. Take the time to listen to your people. Take the time to really understand what's going on. So how do we interact is critical in how we make a difference with people. The way that we do that, when we go out, we have to introduce ourselves, make sure that people know who we are. We need to ask them who they are, right? And remember, as Dale Carnegie said in How to Win Friends and Influence People, the sweetest sound in any person's language is their own name. So learn it, use it. And then we want to build this relationship of trust. Find out what they're interested in, share common ground, talk about things, and let them know why you're there, that you're there to help them. We want to create that safe environment that we mentioned so that people want to come forward and share things when they're not working, that they see that it's an opportunity to improve. And you have to be there and observe. And then you have to try to really understand what is happening and ask clarifying non-judgmental questions. So Carl Jung, he said that to ask the right question is already half the solution to a problem. Question really is, what's the right question, right? So one of the things that we have a tendency, I think, to do in Lean is we go straight to the 5 whys and we ask why until we get to the answer. But we have to be careful because there's certain things that can actually be counterintuitive. So what you ask can either build up or tear down the trust that you've established. So you have to be careful in what you ask. And one of the things that we need to be aware of is we need to avoid why questions. Why, you might ask? Well, think about it. Why can be accusatory. Remember as a kid and your parents came into your room and said, why is this room still a mess? Why didn't you make your bed? It's accusatory. It doesn't feel good. Why creates a confrontational cycle. And why is backward looking. It's looking at what happened in the past instead of forward looking. Why creates or requires insights that they may not have. They may not know why something happened, only that it did happen. It asks for the definitive answer or result, and it is a challenge. It's not an invitation. So we need to be careful when we use why questions. And honestly, it's probably better to avoid those. And instead, we want to be genuinely interested in what our frontline has to say. We need to invite them to explore and solve the problem with us. So therefore, we need to be asking, what and how questions, using employing even is, is this difficult? Is this, easy? Is there something we can do to help? But what shows the need to change? What is an invitation to partner in that investigation? As in, what can we do better next time? Or what can I do to help? How? Similar. It helps to uncover what needs to be done, and it helps focus on the future, as in, how can it be improved? Another thing that we can do, in addition to asking questions and helping to coach and mentor our people, is we can actually do Gemba tours. And this is something that it's, sometimes it's difficult to see what's right in front of you. And we need help to be able to, to learn and to grow ourselves. And so I love Gemba tours because it helps us to learn from the experiences of others, to see the successes and the failures that they've had. And that provides us with new perspectives and learning opportunities. And it also helps to improve morale. So let me show you how this works. Within Gemba tours, a bunch of benefits that we have. It helps to increase department capability. It helps us to increase our ability to find improvements, employee development. It helps the employees to feel valued, to increase the trust, the organizational trust, as well as to increase the employee engagement that we see. So one of the things you can do is an organizational Gemba walk. Take people around to different areas that you're working on. One of the things that we have at the airport is, and I don't have a lot of maritime things from the port because I don't really work in that area. I work more with the aviation side and the corporate side. But here's an opportunity we have to improve the lines, right? And the flow of passengers to TSA. So here's a fun thing that we did. We went ahead and did Gemba walks, we observed things, and then we went back to the office and we practiced and did different scenarios. And so here I took a gummy bear, I scaled that to the size of a person, and then we drew out the plans for the facility. So we were able to move the gummies around, same size as the people on the floor. So that was kind of a fun activity. And if we got bored, we had some gummy bears. And one of the cool things that happened is we were actually out doing a go and see, a Gemba walk. And we had the opportunity to see somebody drop dead. It's not a good thing, but the cool thing was we got to see our first responders, our police, our port police, and our port fire department get out there, be able to use the defibrillator and bring this person back to life. That's awesome. I mean, where else are you going to see something like that, where you get to go to Gemba and see, somebody raised from the dead? Go out there. You're going to be amazed at the things that you see. And it's really a great opportunity to learn and to be able to apply the things. Any chance I get, I try to get out into the field and see what's going on and see if I can find some opportunities for improvement. One of the things that we do at the airport is we actually do FOD walks to try to find that foreign object debris. This is one that happened not too long ago. In fact, a bonus, I actually found a $5 bill that had blown into the weeds. So that was pretty cool. Here's another one. This is the Tri-ACE, or the triannual aircraft crash event. And so every 3 years, we take down one of the runways and we actually pretend like a aircraft crashed. And it gives the first responders the ability to practice in real situations with real people. And you can see me there. I took a selfie as I'm being triaged. And we learned all sorts of interesting things, including the particular rickshaw that they were moving my gurney on. The wheel was faulty and it broke, and as they were transporting me, and I fell face first onto the asphalt. So it was a good thing I was there, able to help out, because they learned that they needed to fix that. So going to Gemba is good. Sometimes a little painful, but that's okay. All right. Here's another opportunity. As we were building the International Arrival Facility, the IAF, at the airport, we got to actually go on a tour and see how we've applied lean into our construction principles and the maintenance of the facility, which is actually phenomenal, and getting out into the field. So whatever your organization, look for opportunities, look for places where you're having success, or maybe where you need some help, and have people come out to see what you've done and how you've done it. You can learn a lot and they can learn a lot. Another thing that we can do is, as public agencies, we have the ability to partner up and to work with others. And so we actually went ahead and went to Tumwater and visited the Washington State Patrol Garage facility, where they both commission and decommission the patrol vehicles for the Washington State Patrol, and got to see some of the amazing things they did. In fact, they took it from, I think, before they started their lean efforts, with a lot of overtime, they could get 10 vehicles done in a month. And they had, well over 100 that were sitting out in the parking lot collecting moss and stuff, waiting for their turn. Using lean, Boeing came in, helped them out. And I think within a month and a half, they had gone up to about 24 vehicles in that amount of time, more than double their production and reduce their overtime, something they didn't even think was possible. And so get an opportunity, go see what other people have done. And we did that. We got to learn and see how they have taken things and learned from it and used it. And so a lot of our people went back, and they were anxious to, because we also prepare our patrol vehicles. They were anxious to try some of these things that they had learned here. Another thing that we've done is we partnered with the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. They have a lean department there, and we have a lean department. We've been able to share a lot of things. And so we have frequent, talks, usually on a monthly basis, and we find out things. So we had gone into lockdown about a week and a half before they did. We figured out how to do virtual Kaizen events. And so we shared that with them so they wouldn't lose any time like we had. And then they asked us for help because our IT department ended up fast tracking, getting teams out to all of the departments when COVID hit. And their IT department was just getting ready to. So we were able to put them together, talk about the things that they had learned, how they could improve. And we've shared, report outs, we've shared, trainings and different things like that. It's helped benefit both of us. And that's been done virtually. You can also go out to private sector, companies. We're here in Washington, a lot of companies that practice this. Cost tailored. Highly recommend them. One of the things that's really cool about this manufacturer of furniture is the fact that you can see behind there, all of the workstations, the office has been brought, they tore down all the walls, and there is no office. The office is quite literally out on the shop floor so that they are at the Gemba all the time. And so the workers and the office workers, they can see each other and they can answer questions quicker, and it's removed a lot of barriers. Really cool setup that they have. Would recommend that. They do give tours. That would be a great one. Boeing is, I think, just started opening up tours again. There's a lot of companies that you can meet with and go and check out how they do things and learn from them. Finally, we have the opportunity to do Gemba Walks. And we took a group to Japan in May, and then again here earlier this month. And we got to go to Toyota. We got to visit a bunch of the suppliers to Toyota and see how they do things and learn from them and other companies. In fact, one thing that was kind of cool is we ended up watching what's known as the 7-minute miracle. It's how these workers have been able to turn a bullet train, kind of similar in appearance on the inside as an airplane, and they can turn that, clean it all up and get it out and ready to move on its journey in 7 minutes. And so what's kind of fun here is as we were looking in the windows and watching them work, one of the passengers came up and joined us to see, like, what are you guys looking at? So it was fun. But here's really the magic that happened. From the port employees, we got a lot of different feedback. I know leaders really care about me because they asked me to go to Japan and invested in me. I want to take what I learned and help my team to succeed. I believe applying what I learned will help make me more effective for the port. And another one here is going to Japan deepened even more my excitement about continuous process improvement and lean. It helped me realize how much I can still learn about applying and using these topics. True Gemba happens when frontliners are heard and are given the opportunity to practice their creativity with the support and encouragement of their leader. A couple other comments here. The experience was full of opportunities to witness the power of 5S and Hoshin Kanri and visual management systems. This results in happy employees and quality products. It's a win-win. I learned how concepts such as joy, happiness, and fun can be integrated into business. I have definitely expanded my lean horizons, especially regarding KPIs. And this one I think is really cool. I try to get out into the field as much as possible, and I work hard to get other leaders out in the field as well. I scheduled the executive leadership team to have their monthly meeting at our Terminal 91 location and to meet the staff, to have lunch with them, and to have a tour with them. It's incredibly important. So when you invest in your people, you actually get a lot of things. It really shows, and this helps to build up the morale. It shows that they're important to you, that you value them, that you trust them, and also that you are supportive of transforming the culture, that you really are behind what you say. So today we've talked about what a Gemba Walk is, why it's important. We've looked at how to improve productivity, and we've also looked at how to inspire and motivate your people using Gemba Walks. So there's a couple of things here. Using Gemba Walks, we can choose where to focus our efforts. We can set clear goals and understand problems to be solved. We can ask the right questions. And remember, it's open-ended and non-accusatory, right? And by engaging with those at the Gemba, it really builds trust. Helps us to capture observations, and then we can assign people to help solve and improve those problems. We provide, it provides a visible support and for the process improvement. And here's the great thing, people will see what you're doing and they will want to be part of it. And we have seen, as we've been doing these Gemba Walks and taking people to Gemba, as we've been implementing this as part of our strategy for process improvement, we have more and more people wanting to do that and participate in these activities. And finally, by actively including your people, you can watch morale improve. And that's really it. And that's the message for today. Don't, discount Gemba Walks. Take the time to do them, and you'll see some magical things happen. And so with that, thank you. Here's how you can contact me. More than willing to help and answer any questions. We're kind of running low on time, but if there's any questions, Teresa, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Jared, for that awesome presentation. I truly appreciated just the real life examples that you shared with us that, the Port of Seattle has experienced, and then just your various Gemba Walks, in Japan and in the private sector. And I think I speak for all of us when we say thank you for your attention to the TSA lines at the airport. I know that's always going to be a work in progress, but I think we all appreciate that. One of the biggest questions that is coming through in the Q&A with just our new environment of hybrid work, virtual work, how can we apply the Gemba practice in a virtual workspace?
Yeah, very similar to what we did. So by sharing the screen and, just saying, hey, walk us through your process. So a lot of the office processes, that's what we do. We just have them share the screen and we can watch and observe what they're doing. During COVID, we did use, a couple of different techniques. Sometimes we took pictures of the Gemba area. Sometimes we took video, and then we would replay that when we couldn't be there in person. But now that we're able to get back out and in the field, we find for kind of the physical activities, like if you're WSDOT and you can do it, via video and cell phone. And we've done that. In fact, with Rizuo Shingo, I got to attend a virtual Gemba Walk as we looked at a fish manufacturing plant in the Philippines. So we had people from all over the world watching, and they came through with their iPhone and they filmed it as, and we would ask them, hey, can you focus on that thing to the left, and things like that. So it's possible. It is a lot easier to do it in person, but sometimes it makes sense to do it virtually as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That's where that creativity comes into play for sure. Another question. You discourage why questions during the Gemba because, sometimes that can come off as accusatory, but then share the 5 whys as part of the countermeasure plan. Can you clarify when it's appropriate to ask why questions?
Yeah, so if the people have been trained and they understand 5 whys, then it is appropriate to do it. If they haven't been trained, explain, hey, look, the more we ask why, the more we can kind of drill down and get to that root cause. It's not accusatory towards you. It's just, we're exploring together, trying to figure it out. So if you set it up in a way that it's not, I'm not blaming you. We're just trying to understand the root cause, and they understand that, then it's, then you can ask, is it okay if I, ask you some why questions? And then I think it'll come across a lot better, that they won't feel that they're being attacked.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Thank you. Another question, we might have time for two more. Gemba Walks can be difficult to organize with busy leadership schedules. What are some techniques you employ to galvanize people around busy schedules to participate in Gemba attentively?
Yeah, I think that's really important, where where possible. I mean, you do want to respond quickly, but sometimes if you're trying to bring upper management in, you might have to set it out, 2, 3, 4 weeks out, to get something scheduled. That doesn't mean that your work stops. You can continue to work with the team. You can go on Gemba Walks. You can understand better so that you can help the execs understand when they come out to see, and you can continue to work as a team on some of those improvements. So you don't necessarily have to wait for them, but taking time to get it on their schedule, and then coaching and mentoring them and helping them to understand that it is really important to clear your schedule and make time for this, because if they see you coming 4 weeks down the road or 5 weeks down the road versus, hey, I'm going to drop things, I'm going to come by the end of this week or in the next day or two, that makes a huge difference.
Awesome. Thank you. And then last question here. Regarding the slide on management time allocation in Japan, how does that company allow for managers or supervisors to do higher level strategic work or reflection that isn't Gemba, isn't Kaizen, and isn't people development?
Yeah, well, I mean, higher level, to a certain extent, it probably is people development. To a certain extent, it is improvement. How are we going to do things better going forward? What are the goals? What are the the strategy that we need to use moving forward? So it is a piece of the Kaizen, and it is Gemba, because part of your role as a as a manager, as a supervisor, especially in the management roles, is to keep the organization going. And so, what are those things that you have to do? That's critical too. If you weren't doing that particular job or that particular task, then it wouldn't get done. If it doesn't get done, then your people don't get paid, or you lose out on the opportunity of hiring a cheaper consultant or supplier or something like that. So that is actually Gemba, right? Because it's something that is important to the organization. It's important to what you're doing, and so it is considered part of Gemba. Yeah, you just have to split it between your Gemba and the Gemba of the people that you're supervising and managing. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jared. If you did ask a question and for any reason, just due to the time constraints, we couldn't get to that, I know Jared provided his email address, and I'm sure would be happy to connect with you if you'd like to shoot him an email with your question. And definitely, if you're feeling inspired by today, like I am, check out those handouts that Jared provided and the presentation today that we have on our website. So appreciate you, Jared.